We got a lot of wind, but we're going to throw the first rounds down the pipe of the H9. Didn't lock back. We're going to keep going. Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed from the title of the video, as well as the thumbnail, this is what we're going over today. This is the Daniel Defense H9, or the Daniel H9, you'll see it listed as. And what is it? Well, from the macro overview, it is a redone version of the Hudson H9. So as of when I'm recording this video, Daniel Defense bought the rights, all the patents, all that stuff for the Hudson H9, and they went to work to create what we have here today. So I've actually known about this. I've been under an NDA, just full disclosure, with Daniel Defense for I think 3 years now, about the development of this project, and there has been a ton that went into it. So long story short, basically the original Hudson H9 rather had some problems. They had the steel and aluminum frame versions. Each of those kind of had different problems, but from everything you read online, essentially very few of them went longer than, say, 2,000 to 3,000 rounds before having a major parts breakage. Daniel Defense, essentially they built what the Hudson H9 was on their equipment, and they still had those problems, and they went to work to fix them. And that's what took 3 or 4 years at this point to give us the pistol that we have here. There definitely is some big differences. There is one part that actually is the same as the original, but basically everything else was overhauled. So I suppose before we get into all those details, I do want to mention that this is going to be a Mug Club episode. So we're going to do the full review here on YouTube as well as my Rumble channel, and then we're going to head over to Mug Club where we can do content that is censorship free. And there's a bunch of other creators over there: Alex Jones, Steven Crowder, Hodge Twins, Nick DiPaolo, Brian Callen, and more that I'm sure I'm missing. And over there it's completely censorship free, which is nice, especially in an election year. And we're going to be talking about the bill to prevent militias from essentially being militias in America, and how absurd it is, and essentially why we are going to oppose it at all levels. And then we're going to take viewer chats. But back to the actual pistol itself, we're going to start basically at the bottom and then work our way up. So magazines here are 15 round. Should note that it is essentially Glock 19 size with a little bit longer slide, so maybe like Glock 49 size, if you will. So 15 round standard capacity magazines. I would imagine in the future there will be extended magazines and perhaps even a full-size frame coming out, but I think they wanted to go with the concealed carry market, etc., or the do-all type of gun, which makes sense. Glock 19, one of the most popular guns ever, so trying to compete in that space. But magazines made in-house by Daniel Defense, and they have some smart things going on. Essentially, you can just push that little button, slide everything forward. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that on YouTube. They might consider that modifying, but you can clean them without tools. So that is nice. You don't need anything to get in there. It's very, very simple. And obviously we have a steel body and an aluminum frame. So no issues at all with mags getting hung up. They absolutely come out very easily, as you guys can see. Additionally, right here in the front, we have not only, it's like a double relief cut, if that makes sense. So there is a relief cut into the actual frame itself, and then a relief cut into the mag base plate. So you can get a extremely good purchase on there to actually grip and rip your magazine out should you experience a double feed. And continuing on, you guys can also see that we have a pretty good bevel built into the actual mag well there, and it does also have a spot where you can attach a lanyard loop if you are like a Army lieutenant, for example, and you want to do that. You certainly can. Frame is made out of 7075 T6 aluminum. Interestingly, the back strap and the front strap have horizontal lines that go across it, not checkering. So when I first got this in and was just essentially dry firing it, I was questioning that decision. There's no doubt about it. But when I got out to the range and actually started to put live rounds downrange. This thing sticks in your hand more than I expected. I did not expect it to be as effective as it is. Just kind of, again, dry firing it, you don't really notice it, but when you actually go and put a full grip on it, it bites into your hand, which is exactly what you want it to do. The grips here have G10 panels on there. They are completely removable, just like a 1911. Should note it also has a 1911 grip angle. So if you're somebody who likes the 1911 grip angle, then that's probably something that you will like on there. As of right now, I'm not aware of any aftermarket grips for it, but I'm sure they're coming. I'm sure Locked Grips and all the other Hogue, etc., will be making grips for it, because from what I can tell, this is an extremely popular pistol. So continuing on up, we do have a nice high beaver tail there. So that way, I don't think anybody's going to get slide bite on this pistol. I mean, I have relatively large hands and it simply is not happening. On the other side of the grip there, we do have a nice undercut allowing you to get very high into the gun. One of the big selling points of this firearm for sure is going to be the low bore axis and just the way that it shoots very, very flat. There's a lot that goes into it. One of them being that the gun sticks in your hand like we already talked about. One being a good undercut there. Another one being a relatively low bore axis. Another thing is going on up front that we will talk about as well that contributes to that. But yeah, it's a very easy gun to conceal and not too heavy as well. So I suppose with that, let's get into this. On the topic of carrying the H9, that brings us to the sponsor of today's video, and that is the folks over at Arrowhead Tactical Apparel. I am currently wearing a pair of their joggers. I also have a pair of their shorts and one of their hoodies as well. They make some pretty cool products, but what's the coolest about it, at least in my opinion, is going to be their Omni-Carry belt system that integrates with their pants and shorts. So I'm wearing it right now. You can see I can jump up and down all I want. We have the H9 with a loaded magazine in there, and you can carry at any position that you want. But as you might be able to see right there, that belt goes all the way around the inside of the garment, and that way you can carry heavy guns in any position you like. And again, they make them in a number of different colors: jogging pants, shorts of different lengths, I believe 8 and 11-inch inseams, as well as hoodies that allow you to drop from concealment. All kinds of good stuff over there. So definitely check out the folks over at Arrowhead Tactical Apparel. Link in the video description. Let's get back to it. Getting back into the gun, talk about the trigger guard there. So I would say it is an average size trigger guard. Some folks who have gloved hands are wearing gloves rather if they're relatively thick. That may be something to be concerned with, that you might not be able to easily get your gloves in there. But if you're wearing like thin gloves, shooting gloves, whatever the case may be, shouldn't be an issue. Trigger on this gun, very interesting. So that was one of the things that a lot of folks really liked about the original Hudson. And what Daniel Defense has done here is kept the straight pull version of it. So essentially it's a trigger bow like a 1911 where it comes around the magazine, the actual trigger bow itself. So it does pull straight to the rear, and we will just double check that we are clear. So it does pull straight to the rear. However, what it does have, that 1911 certainly doesn't have, is going to be what people call a dingus, or the trigger safety. And interesting thing about it is that it actually comes from the bottom. So most of your trigger safeties are going to come down from the top. And I am so used to feeling that when I felt this the first time, it kind of threw me off a little bit. But as you guys can see there, that we'll do the release real quick, or the reset, I should say. And then the brake, it brakes clean right at 5.5 pounds on my scale. So it's not super light. It's not quite as crisp as a 1911 trigger. I'm not sure if it's the trigger safety or what's contributing to that, but there is a little bit more creep to it than most 1911s, at least a good 1911. And again, the reset there. But that short movement that you guys are seeing there, that's one of the things that allows you to really get on this gun and just send rounds downrange quickly, which is exactly what you want for a defensive gun, or even a competition gun for that matter. Trigger though, I'm not going to complain about it, and I don't really think many out there are. Continuing on forward, we do have a 1913 rail out front for adding lights, lasers, etc. We ran a few of them during the test, and we had zero issues with it at all. We do have a steel reinforcement in there, as you guys probably have noticed. That has been something that is coming up. More and more aluminum guns are starting to use it, and I think it's just something that a lot of companies are finding that with higher round counts, it is something that you're going to want with a steel slide and an aluminum grip. But continuing on forward out to the front, we do have a fiber optic sight on there. Honestly, the fiber optic sight, I was a little bit surprised to look at it and see that the top there was open. They have a little bit of protection in the middle there, and of course they have protection at the front and the rear. But I was thinking that there might be a little bit more protection for a duty type gun. Now with fiber optic sights, should it shoot out of there for whatever reason, the sight is of course perfectly usable, and at that point it simply becomes a black on black type of sight picture because we do have a serrated rear there. But I have had no issues with it moving. It actually looks pretty solid. And the good news is if you guys want to change these for whatever reason, they are SIG compatible. So your SIG sights, I believe number 8, are what fits in there. And obviously there are a ton of different aftermarket accessories for those. Continuing on back, it is optics cut, and when you order the pistol, you get a coupon in your box with it, and that will allow you to pick a plate of your choice. I have the RMR plate. One thing that's nice about that, well, all the plates, is that they are CNC machined, but they are steel. It seems like an extremely solid sight system now, plate system, excuse me. You know, there's been a lot of talk online over the last few months or year, I suppose, as to the M&P system not being quite durable enough because it uses polymer. Other folks say the aluminum Glock ones are not durable enough. Well, this one uses steel on steel. So it's going to be quite durable, I'm sure, and we will test that down the road for sure. Moving back over to the grip, our mag release there sticks out a little bit. As you can see, it's still kicking those out even without gravity, which certainly is nice, but it's not so large that it's going to be easily hit, and it does have that little cutout in the grip to reach it. I did neglect to mention that earlier, but the gun is fully ambi, so our slide lock and slide release are ambidextrous. Now, that's going to bring me to one of the points that I personally had with this gun. It was not the greatest, is I was getting false slide lock. Excuse me, the opposite. The opposite. Its slide wasn't locking back. And that is because I use a high two-handed grip like that, and I was essentially pushing down on the slide stop and slide release. Now I tested that, and you guys are gonna see what happened here. Didn't lock back. Just loaded one round. We'll try to see if the slide lock issue is my support hand, which I'm guessing it is. We'll find out right now. It is. So I'm hitting that slide lock lever under recoil. Little grip adjustment works just fine. So as we just demonstrated, it clearly was a me issue, but it is just something to be aware of. Again, when I just slightly modified my grip personally with my hands, it went away, so it's not a problem with the gun. The gun does lock back. It's just my big old hands getting in there and messing with it. So disassembly, very simple on this gun. So essentially we're just going to drop our magazine, make sure that it is clear. We're going to point in the safe direction, pull the trigger, pull back slightly, pull down on these two tabs right in the front of the trigger guard. Comes right off. You guys can take a look in there. We have good machining, and one thing that you probably might be able to see. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Yeah, there you go. You can see it. So that is how the trigger bar goes right around the magwell, right in there. So pretty cool little system, 1911-ish, but of course not a 1911. So one of the other ways that I hinted at earlier that the gun stays nice and low under recoil is the recoil spring is actually dropped down into the frame. Now the original Hudson was like dropped down into here, and that was one of the issues that they had reliability wise, was because it was a little bit too low and a little bit too much of a lever. Daniel Defense made it more than most pistols, as you guys can see there, but not as much as the original Hudson. But to continue rather disassembling, you just pull it out, and it has this little tab right here that has to go into a little tab on the actual barrel itself. You have to make sure they line up. It's not that big of a deal, but just know that going forward, that is how it is. But the barrel itself, very different than your traditional Browning style lockup. You'll see here, not exactly the same. The same is true there on the hood. It just gets the barrel down lower in the slide with that drop portion there. It's definitely unique. I don't know of anything else like it on the market outside of the original Hudson. And looking in the feed ramp there, you can see it's nice and polished for feeding hollow points. So let's see how that went. We'll try out some hollow points. We have some 115 grain S&B here. We'll see how she runs and feeds it. Well, didn't go into battery. Continuing on into the slide, you'll see again no machine marks as you would expect. The entire slide is DLC coated. Most of your internal parts are going to be DLC coated as well. For folks that are new, DLC is a diamond-like coating, and it's very good at corrosion resistance, very good at surface hardening, all of those sorts of things. And as you guys saw there, I just put it in the correct notch, and putting it back together is essentially that right there. You're back together. At this point in the video, we got a couple things to talk about that are important before we close it out. It's going to be reliability as well as price point. Reliability, you guys saw there just a second ago, something that I'm going to get to. So out of the first 3 mags that we fired through the gun, twice we had an issue where the slide didn't go fully into battery, and that was using the slide release. After that, it didn't happen at all. I also tested slingshotting it several times. We had no issues doing that. I believe, if I had to guess, it was just a break-in issue because, again, after the 3rd magazine through the gun, it never happened again. Let's try running the slide, see if we have that issue. Nope. Just know that. I don't know if you guys would consider that a malfunction or not. Comment down below. I don't know if it technically is or isn't. But again, when actually firing the gun, had 0 issues of any kind, which certainly is nice. And again, just over 600 rounds at this point through the gun. So that's pretty darn good. Price point on this, I believe the MSRP right now is $1,299. And if you guys look around online, as of when I'm making this video, if they come in stock, they sell out immediately, essentially at that price point. Who knows? It may come down over the years. If you guys are watching this like in 2026 or something like that, it might be a little bit cheaper. But $1,299 is the MSRP. And I think for what you get is a very price competitive gun. There's a lot of guns that are at this similar weight and also have aluminum frames and have a lot of the features that this has, but this has a lot of unique features that none of the other competitors has. So whether or not that's worth it to you, I suppose you guys ultimately are the ones to decide, but from what I can tell, it seems to be a good gun, a quality gun. We're going to keep shooting it. And if anything changes there, we will definitely let you guys know. But that is my breakdown of the Hudson, or excuse me, Daniel H9. Definitely, in my experience, from everything I've seen, based on the Hudsons I've shot in the past, it is a product improved gun for sure, as it should be with all of the research that they did. In the testing, they fired over 1 million rounds to get this thing right. So it's a pretty proven design at this point, at least from the folks over there at Daniel Defense. And again, if anything changes as we continue to shoot this gun, we will post it up first over at our social media pages that you guys can see here on your screen. If anything changes, politics, gun-wise, parts-wise, whatever the case may be, we post it up on our social media pages first. I definitely recommend the non-Zuckerberg ones. You can definitely check me out at X, at Truth, at Telegram. Those are definitely the best in my opinion. And additionally, if you like this video and you haven't seen 2 to 4 videos a week here and you're already subscribed, well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button. But if you like it, you're subscribed and you're not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week, you are being censored by an algorithm. So to fight that, you can sign up for my email at the website here on your screen. This email goes out once a month and it has all the videos since the previous month's email went out. So that way there's no big tech giant censoring your eyes from my content. Additionally, we have a daily deals email where ammo, optics, if this gun comes in sale, anything else that you guys might like, if those things are in that email, it goes out every day, as I believe I mentioned. And if it is in that email, whatever the product is, guns, ammo, etc., optics, if it's in there, it's the cheapest that I know of on the internet on that particular day for that product, because they've already done the price comparisons for you. The bugs are coming out like crazy. But yeah, so that way it saves you guys some time and some money. And with that, we're going to close the video out here on YouTube and Rumble. Bugs. And we're going to head over to Mug Club. So with that, thank you all for watching. Look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next video.